There are three things you cannot talk about at Thanksgiving dinner: religion, politics, and climate. Now, if you should break that taboo and actually talk about religion or politics, what you'll find out quickly is it's a lot like talking about sports. We each identify with a team, declare that the other team is filled with losers or idiots, and we will argue about it all night long. But with climate, it's not like that. There's something deeply emotional at stake with climate. Show of hands, who here talks with family and friends frequently about climate? Frequently. Okay, you're not representative. Okay. Yeah. I was afraid of that. Researchers at Yale have shown that 30% of us never talk about climate. Never. Another 30% rarely, another 30% occasionally, and only 10% of us talk about it frequently, which is why you are not represented. Friends, this is a problem because climate change is the greatest existential threat our species has ever had. Warming is happening because each of us contribute to tons and tons of greenhouse gases going up into the atmosphere, warming our planet, and threatening our fragile existence. Now, I think you can visualize the impacts: sea level rise, climate refugees, poisonous sulfur gas, and not last but not least, the toxic combination of high temperature and high humidity that means our bodies cannot cool themselves when we're out of doors. In other words, a planet no longer suited to human life. Problem. Governor Inslee defined our moment well with this quote: "We're the first generation to feel the sting of climate change and the last with the power to do anything about it." I believe that our generation has a prime directive, a mandate, if you will, to focus solely on greenhouse gas reduction with the intention of slowing warming down. And we have to figure out ways to stay disciplined, to stay focused, and avoid distractions. In 2022, Nobel Prize winning psychiatrist Daniel Kahneman shared this observation that humanity's best bet for tackling climate change was to maintain continuous social pressure on climate. Social pressure, okay? Now, how do we exert social pressure these days? It's obvious. We send an email. A lot of social pressure, right? No social pressure. Or maybe we look at a website. Pressure? No social pressure. Or maybe we watch a very moving documentary. Also, not pressure. Pressure? Pressure is someone talking to you face to face about what you are and are not doing on climate. That's pressure. So we have to figure out how we can talk about climate to sustain the pressure to act. How can we overcome the biggest barriers to talking about climate? How can we do that? Let me let you in on a secret. The two biggest reasons we don't talk about climate, the two biggest barriers, are emotional. Many of us feel angry about climate change, angry that we are acting small in the face of something large, angry that we are more part of the problem than the solution, angry that we're leaving our children and grandchildren with a burning planet, and angry we can't seem to motivate ourselves to do anything about it. Anger. We also feel fear. Fear that we failed, that climate failed. Fear that when humanity finally reacts, we'll be too little and too late. And then fear, the most personal fear, that whatever contribution we can make just won't add up in the face of a global challenge, right? Does anyone feel these emotions? They are crippling. They're crippling. Typically don't think of climate as an emotional topic, but how could it not be an emotional topic? If we were Vulcan, there would be no climate change. We would have anticipated it, designed it out of the system, and we would be golden. But unfortunately, we're human, and we have chimpanzee brains that prioritize emotion over logic. These emotions are imprinted on our brain in the form of more than 180 cognitive quirks called heuristics that are more or less an invisible wiring to our brain, things that'll trip us up from doing things in our own self-interest. And we have to have this invisible wiring in mind as we design climate change action. So here's where design matters most. Let's reframe climate action from a chore to something that connects with people's hearts and minds. Hearts and minds. And those things that we hold most dear. Gratitude for being alive and love of our children and grandchildren, wherever they may be. And let us design a game where the goal of the game is to maximize contentment and minimize consumption. Contentment up, consumption down. And if we design the heck out of this game, when we go to play it, it will appeal to our sense of discovery, curiosity, play, and maybe if we do it right, joy. As we play the game, the barriers to climate action will melt away, and we will, without thinking about it, do the right thing on climate. That's the vision. So let's play this game. Let's apply this game to 3 really powerful challenges we face in climate action. Powerlessness, hyperconsumption, and the scarcity of time. Challenge number 1, powerlessness. The world has settled on an approach to tackling climate change, and it is this. Global warming is a global problem, requiring a global response from a global institution. How many global institutions do we have? 1, United Nations. Unfortunately, they are powerless. They're powerless. And so what happens is they work with national governments to set climate reduction targets and to achieve those targets. This is what's called a top-down approach. Now, if your government is a dictatorship, autocracy, or a monarchy, top-down's pretty cool. Top person says it will be thus, and it is made thus. But in a democracy, it's different. There are limits to how the reach of government. And I want to show you how this plays out in our democracy. X-axis is years, 2000, 2050. Y-axis is tons, megatons of CO2 equivalent. So what this shows is the impact of the 2022 Inflation Reduction Act. So this is the single largest investment in climate that's ever been made by the United States. And what you see here is, frankly, remarkable impacts from that. What this shows is by the year 2050, we will have reduced our greenhouse gases by 40% compared to what they were in 2005. Pretty remarkable, all right? Now let's show of hands. Thank you, government. Thank you. You did something good. So there are many people who will say, well, you know what? Cleaning up global warming, addressing global warming, that's the work of government and not us. We want them to solve it for us. Well, the government's just acted. This is the best they're ever going to do. And I point out to you that big black box means that in 2050, 60% of the emissions we had in 2005, we still have. Government's done. Who's left? Turns out in our democracy, in our capitalist democracy, 60%, more than 60% of the consumption decisions are made privately by individuals, families, and businesses, small and large. This is going to be decided by us people. Government's done. It's on us. And I'll just say this is an unacceptably large remaining amount of emissions. This puts us on a bad place. We don't want to go there. But I believe we Americans can tap into an inner spirit that will help us overcome this. In the 19th century, early 19th century, a Frenchman came to the United States, Alexis de Tocqueville, and observed our fledgling democracy. And what he saw was, first of all, the history's first experiment with democracy. And what he saw was this incredible do-it-yourself spirit. We had a tiny, tiny government with 1 million problems to solve. What that meant was individuals would come together to build the bridge across the river, to build the school, to build the church, whatever it was. That was something that was self-organized, committees. We just jumped in and did it. And it's this American, very American spirit of do it yourself is exactly what we need. Government's done. It's now on us. Now, if you lack confidence in the power of individual decisions, let's talk about an everyday thing. Burgers. We're talking about beef. The chart on the left shows you that beef has 8 times the carbon footprint of chicken, fish, or pork. And I should say, food accounts for 30% of global greenhouse gas emissions. 30% is just food. In the United States, it's 10 because we use a lot of energy for other things. But anyway, so beef, 8 times the carbon intensity of those 3 protein sources, and 25 times more carbon intensive than tofu. Anybody here eat tofu? Thank you. Thank you. So the impact is so big that if somehow cattle could organize themselves into a country, that country would be 3rd in emissions behind China, the US, and the Republic of Beef. If everyone that now eats beef instead substituted chicken, pork, or fish as their protein, let alone tofu, we would reduce global emissions equivalent to the entire country of Russia. That's the kind of impact individuals can have, and they aggregate up and they have global implications. Second one, hyperconsumption. We are the most materially rich society in history. We have more stuff, we have more consumption, and we have the greenhouse gases to prove it. This is a chart showing the per capita emissions of the top 10 most emitting countries. And you'll see US, you guessed it, is on top. So we, per capita, we emit twice the pollution of a person from China or Japan, 2.5 times that of Brazil or Europe, and 7 times that of India. So we are on top, baby. It's not even close. We're winning. But as we become more affluent, our impacts, the carbon impacts of our consumption decisions become even more harmful. This is an animation of Taylor Swift's 2 jets over the last year and how they crisscross the country, 150,000 miles, the whole thing. Now you may say, what has Taylor Swift got to do with me? This is what Taylor Swift does in a year. I will bet there are people in this audience, I might even be one of them, that over their lifetime, this is what your travel patterns look like. Does anyone fly by air? Show of hands. Okay. Oh, apparently you all do. I didn't know. We're all pro travel. Travel is fun. It's great. The thing is, air travel is problematic. Cars and trucks we can see are on a path to become electric. There will be no electric airplane. That is fantasy. There's small improvements in jet fuel. Air travel will always be fossil fuel powered. And we have to come to terms with it. We cannot sustain that amount of air travel. So what am I supposed to do about it? 2 things. If you decide you have to travel, make it a longer trip. A weekend in Paris is a climate bomb. A week, slightly better, a month better, and a vacation long enough that it becomes your vacation for the next 4 years. Okay, I'll give you that. No, I'm serious. 2 to 3 months, 2 to 3 months. And employers, figure it out. Just figure it out. You should stay a while. And then the second thing is the greatest vacation you can take is described in 2 words. Road trip. Turns out a full car driving the average length of a road trip vacation uses half the emissions of an air flight. Half. If that full car happens to be an EV, it's a quarter. So, if you want to do good things for the environment, get in a car and go somewhere, and don't go to the airport. Airports are shrines to the mass consumption of fossil fuels. Challenge number 3, scarcity of time. Climate action, climate change is really a race against time. We have embedded fossil fuels in our lives and in our economy, and we need to get them out. And the question is, what's the fastest we can do that? The fastest our society has reversed course to date is with cigarette smoking cessation in the 1960s. We remember how the government took this on, taxed, tried to put pressure on smoking. And this is what the curve looked like. So 0 cigarettes in 1900, 64 peak, and then basically a bell curve. And so if we put the decarbonization line, if we decarbonize at the rate we quit smoking, what does that look like? And here it is. we would decarbonize by the year 2150, 125 years from now, which is tragically slow. And at that pace, all of our worst fears about climate are all but inevitable. So we people have to figure out a way to change faster. So what I think is true is we can design our lives to move from powerlessness to powerful, from hyper-consuming to climate-friendly, and from worried about time to we're on it. My day job as an architect, I get to work with talented people designing some of the greenest buildings around. They're energy efficient, they're all electric, renewably powered, beautiful, inspiring. I love my work. But what I'm talking about is not work. It's not what you do during the day. It's what you do after work. That's what I'm talking about. The actions we each take that inspire the people around us to do the same, and the ripple effect that plays out. This is how societies change. It is through peer pressure and norms. Okay. So I want to share 3 quick vignettes of things that I'm doing on climate action. So first is our house. Our family lives in a modest house in Chicago. It's 110 years old, and we are on a 5-year mission to decarbonize that house. And what does that mean? We are insulating it, upgraded the windows, upgraded the electric service. We have 4 gas-burning appliances. So we're replacing with electric. We've got 2 down, 2 to go. And at the end of it, we will not have a gas service. It's called electrification. This is legal. It's in our power. And we can do it tomorrow. Next, our neighborhood. Beat poet Gary Snyder had a great quote, which is the most radical thing you can do is stay home. So we live in a lovable neighborhood. Our neighbors are our friends. We constantly celebrate the joy of being alive and knowing one another. And staying home is a joy. So, I wish I was in Paris. No. I'm going to miss a neighborhood party. I would never do that. So cancel the flight, stay home. Third is the Climate Action Museum. So last year, a group of about 25 friends got together and organized the Climate Action Museum, the world's 8th climate museum. It's in an office building downtown. I invite you to come check it out. It was created to do 2 things, to spark conversations on climate and to build community. And we do those by rigorous technical content in the museum and by throwing exquisite parties. So we have 9 months of data. We survey people as they come in about their attitudes about climate. What we found is 75% of the people come in are either defeated or pessimistic. And on the way out, 2/3 of the people are either optimistic or engaged. So we've figured out how to change mindsets on climate. So come check us out. In closing, success on climate starts with a conversation. Conversations don't always have to involve words. These are 2 first grader drawings of a house. Now, the one on the left is probably what we all did growing up. A door, 2 windows, gable roof, chimney, and a waft of smoke, also known as greenhouse gases. Now, on the right is another first grader's version of a different kind of house. First of all, it has no door. That's weird. But it has a what's called a shed roof facing south with solar panels on it. And I know that because the kid told me those are solar panels. Right? And what's notable, no chimney, no smoke, no greenhouse gas emissions. So I think our children are trying to talk to us, and I think we should listen. Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you.